How's it going, guys? Welcome to Savwire. Today, our episode is about starting a business, how to start, bare bones. Gonna go over some questions. First, to start off, I like starting with the conclusion, so you don't have to watch the whole video. Basically, what we're gonna go over is talk about starting a business, how simplicity is key, just doing one thing great is the most important. Choosing something that you'll do for the rest of your life, because one misconception I had was that I wanted to start a business so I could have more free time. Honestly, that doesn't really exist. And we'll talk about why. Unless you're skilled at systemization, but that's a whole different beast. And that's pretty difficult to learn. Unless that's your gift. Unless you're skilled at it. You become what you spend most of your time on. Talk about that. How you want your life to look like. And I guess focus on higher priced products. So it takes the same amount of effort to sell a $1,000 item as it is to sell a $1 trinket. You know, if you're going to have a business and put together a website, do everything, have an email list, do marketing to get clients, get customers, all of those actions, you're going to be doing the same exact thing if you're selling a $1,000, flying drone versus a $1 like sticker. And with the $1 sticker, you'll make 50 cents profit a sale, 25 cents. With a $1,000 drone, you'd make, $300, $200 profit, $500 profit per item. So it's always better to sell something more expensive. So takeaway, if you're going to stop the video now, it's pretty much the takeaway. About me, I've started a couple of businesses, learned the hard way, a lot of stuff. And this is just going to be anecdotes and pretty much boiling down the past 10 years of sweat and tears into a hopefully short video. We're going to go over some questions first that my friend asked me to kind of just answer them and get a gauge of, try to give an idea of how to start a business, where to start. These are the questions we're going to go over. First question, don't know anything about the process. So if you have no idea where to start at the end and figure out a net profit that you have to make for where you're surviving. A good starting point is $1,000 a month net profit. So like after your costs and everything, you want to go home with $1,000 a month. That's a good spot because $1,000, it's not insignificant. It's enough money to survive in a foreign country. Personally, I live part-time or most of the time in Mexico. And $1,000 a month that's a pretty good amount of money in Mexico to live off of. Like, you'll live comfortably. My apartment is about $550 a month in Mexico. Maybe not super comfortably, but enough to where you're not really worried about money. Obviously, you can't be going out clubbing every night, but it goes back to the 80-20 rule, keeping things simple. So, and then if you're in the US or the UK or, an expensive country, $1,000 a month still isn't that bad. It's enough to make a difference. It's enough to, maybe you could buy some extra toys or just put it on the side and reinvest it. $1,000 invested in crypto at the right time, that can be a ton of money. $1,000 invested in anything, it can make a difference. So starting at the end, 80-20 rule, if you haven't heard of it, it's basically 80% of your results come from 20% of effort. So figuring out basically where to focus your energy, that's a huge thing. Personally, I struggle with that, keeping focus on one thing, keeping focus on the result, working on stuff that has a result. So we're going to talk about that. Systemization. If you want to sell or scale the business eventually, you should learn about systemization, and I'll recommend books at the end where you can look more into it. Once again, this video is trying to make it a quick overview. But basically, systemization is like, think of McDonald's or any business where there's a franchise, or even if you just have one small business that you eventually want to sell. Systemization is like, it is creating the business in a way where you can step away and everything's documented. Every processes documented so someone can just come in and run your business and they know how it works. Having processes for everything. For example, for this YouTube video, I could have a process on how I want my videos to look like, for them to be consistent, an intro, outro, putting links at the bottom, having a template, just making things easier, using templates, using processes to keep things consistent, to keep the quality consistent and to just keep basically just make things quicker for you. And once again, if you want to sell the business eventually, which you should, you can just step away and be like, oh, everything's documented. This is how everything works. I'm going to train you for a month. We'll sit down together and I'll show you how my business works. And at the end of it all, you pay me $1 million for my business. And why ideally you should, maybe you're thinking, oh, I want to keep my business forever. Yeah, you could. Eventually people want to retire. People get bored of their businesses, and we're going to talk about that later. It's going to go back to, you become what you do all the time. You might start a business and you think you love it. Like, let's say you start a business running a coffee shop. We'll use that as an example for this video, like an upscale coffee shop somewhere. You might love it. You might love it at first, meeting new people, but then down the line, you might love coffee, meeting new people, running a business, learning about it. But down the line, maybe you'll be like, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I hate dealing with suppliers. I hate dealing with customers. Or just on the positive side, you loved it, but maybe in your business, you learn that, oh, I love running a coffee shop, but actually I love the distribution part, or like sourcing coffee beans. Like, I want to travel around the world and source coffee beans, and I want that to be my business. So if you have everything systematized, you can step away and just sell it to someone. If you don't, and you're running the business and you have to be there for the business to run. Everything's stored in your head, every process. Number one, you're not going to be consistent with your quality. And number two, you won't be able to step away. So that's systemization. Let's keep going. Like I said, you become what you do all day. Story time. I worked as a mechanical engineer. That's my original training, original field of work when I got out of college, original field of study. One of the guys I worked with my first year of working as a mechanical engineer and at a manufacturing plant, I would see him walking around the cubicles, and he was a really happy guy, actually, really funny, but sometimes I would see him talking to himself, like really angry. And it was his last year. He was about to retire. He must have been like 65 years old. And he was this really outgoing guy. Like, he would tell me stories about how when he was 20 years old, he would go backpacking through Europe. He would save up for 9 months working as an engineer and just living bare bones, just living off a chicken breast and broccoli and the cheapest beer you can get, Bud Light. And then just 3 months out of the year going to Europe every summer and backpacking around and having the time of his life. And that was kind of his life, he was happy doing that. And eventually he got older, had kids. So probably from the time he was like 30 to 65, he just worked as an engineer, and that was his life. Kid, wife, divorce. So all the money going to the divorce or the prenup, whatever, child support. But basically he had, I'll never forget this because I asked him what he's going to do after he retires. And he told me, he just started giving me life advice. And he's like, do what he told me, whatever you do, whatever you spend most of your time on, whatever you do day to day, you become that. So he's like, yeah, I'm an engineer. I'm 65. I'm an engineer. That's who I am. That's my life. Like, what am I going to do after this? I don't know. Maybe consulting, but I'm an engineer. That's my identity. That's what I've become. And he was kind of depressed about it. I guess he realized that really late, and I could tell he was angry about it. He was because I would see him walking around like talking to himself with a really angry look on his face, like just being like, I mean, I don't know what he was saying to himself, but he was angry. I could tell he had an internal conflict. And I mean, otherwise he was a really funny and nice guy. He never showed that to anyone, but I would see it on his face. He would turn a corner around the cubicle. I would see him. He would look up and see me and be like, "Oh crap!" Like, "Hey, what's going on, Eric?" His facial expression would change. But yeah, and that's not to say you can't change your life as you're older. It just gets harder. It's like a mental block. If you're listening to this and you're 15, 13, then man, like, please listen and please ask questions, because that's the perfect age to figure out what you want to do with your life. 12, 13, 14, even 18. The perfect age, in my opinion, is 13, 14. If you look at native or like older ancient cultures, that's what they would do. When you were 13 years old, 12, whenever you hit puberty, you would go out and decide what you wanted to do with your life. They would help you decide, and you would decide that. And we're going to kind of do that during this YouTube video. And don't be discouraged, because, I'm on the older side. I'm not 18 anymore. And it got me really down thinking about this stuff. But you can change the trajectory of your life at any moment. It doesn't matter if you're 25, 35, 65, 85. There's people all the time changing what they're doing in life. And anyways, like, what else would you do? Just be depressed all the time? Like, there's always something to do, always something to change in life. That's growth. Anyways, moving on. So don't know what to do. Don't know anything about the process of starting a business. So action step. You can pause the video, write down what you want your life to look like, what you want your day to look like, your dream life. You can write it on a 3x5 card and keep it in your wallet, pocket, look at it from time to time. You could do affirmation stuff. I don't know if that works or not, but it seems to work for a lot of people. Why not? Shit, do it. I did it. I don't know if it works, but I think it actually kind of does. I think it subconsciously does something. Also, think about, what did you like as a kid? Usually stuff that we like to do as kids, it's just our natural way of being. And once again, it's a subject for another video. If you guys like, just comment. Any ideas you guys have or questions, like, asking questions is how you get to Rome. It's how you get to your destination. Ask questions. Everything in my life I learned by asking questions. And I know a lot of just random shit. It's just a matter of putting it into focus and creating something. So you can pause the video and do that. Write out at least a paragraph. The longer the better. Pause it. Okay, moving on. Number 4. If you can't figure out what you want your dream life to look like, which a lot of people maybe can't, I know for me what works, and what I've heard works before, is write down what you don't want your life to look like a nightmare, because if your dream doesn't motivate you, then your nightmares will probably motivate you. And I've changed my life like that before, when I was 15, 16, and just realizing, like, man, this is not what I want my life to look like. Keeping that in mind. So figure out what you don't want your life to look like, your nightmare, and then, just kind of think about how to do the opposite, or just think about what you got to do to not have that life, because that's also something that sometimes we don't think about. I'm going to move on. I'm not going to go into too much depth, because this is going to become too long. I'm already at 14 minutes. Okay, so simplicity is key. Figure out how to make your first dollar at first while moving towards your dream. Businesses can get really complicated. And the more complicated they get, the more expensive they get, the more headache they cause. So that's one thing. Point 6, aim for a higher price product or services, ideally $100 or more per interaction or sale. That's going back to what I said about it takes the same amount of effort to sell a $100 product, $1,000 product, and a $1 product. $100 is a good amount, because if you're going to do online sales And so if you have a 30% margin, if your cost is $30 for, let's say you're selling a physical product and it costs you $30 to buy it. Well, $30 for like you to buy it and all your advertising, all your costs are your overall costs are $30 for that product. Maybe shipping it from China, not advertising, but shipping it from China, the cost to run your website, etc., etc. $30, then that means you have $70 to spend on advertising. And the biggest part of a business is finding clients. The hardest part of a business is finding clients. So advertising is most likely the way you're going to find them, at least online with online sales, online products. And we're going to talk about different businesses, but I'm just going to stick to online products for now because it's it's the new thing. It's scalable. It's easy. It's not easy, but it's just a good business model. So yeah, if you have a $100 item, and it costs you $30, ideally $30 or less, then you have $70 to spend on advertising, and most likely it'll be way easier. You're gonna be able to make a sale if you kind of know more or less what you're doing with advertising. If you have $70 to spend for each sale, meaning that if you spend $69 on advertising to get one customer that spends $100 and your cost is $30 for your product, then you're walking away with $1 profit, which is, it's not the best, but you're not losing money. And that should be like the number one rule on here that I didn't put. Just don't lose money. Like, don't spend any money to start a business. And we'll go into that later. So don't know anything about the process. The last point is just find someone. Once you figured out like what you really want your life to look like, and I guess kind of what you want your business to be like, find someone that does that and buy them coffee, invite them out for coffee or lunch, and just ask them questions. Like, ask them how they got there, ask them what they love about what they do, ask them what they hate about what they do. Ask them if they would do anything differently. And just, spending this $10 to $50, $10 for 2 coffees, $50 for like a nice dinner for 2, and 2 or 3 hours of investment of your time, it'll save you years. Honestly, I didn't do this enough when starting my business. I kind of did it, but I should have done it more. Because at the end, a lot of my businesses, I just realized like, man, this is not what I want to do. Or, going back to about me, my end goal is, it's not exactly business. My end goal is creating things more in the entertainment industry. I like being around people and like creating something for people, expressing myself. And I wanted to start a business to do that. And I learned a ton along the way. I've been doing it for the past 10 years. That's why I'm starting this channel. But basically, I spent all that time to figure out that there's like side hustles where you can make $1,000 a month or something. I don't know, like teaching English online or just doing simple stuff. But if you want to create a business, like I've never met anyone that's created a business and where it's been like really simple and they had a lot of time. Tim Ferriss makes it sound like you can. And I think there's some people that are gifted at it and maybe they can make it work. But to be honest, I don't think Tim Ferriss like spends 4 hours a week and has like all these businesses, unless he has someone else running it for him and he had connections like through his family and they knew that person already, or unless he just like worked his ass off and did it really well. I mean, you would have had to invest like 5 or 10 years of your life to have a 4-hour work week. That's what I'm getting at. Sorry, I don't want to be a hater, and I need to get a glass of water in a second because my voice is drying out. But what I'm saying is, to figure out what you really want to do, because for me, I should have just gone into the entertainment industry, just been poor because I was poor anyways all this whole time. I still am. I'm living bare bones. Now I'm finally doing what I really want to do, but I could have easily just done it 10 years ago. Like, I'm at this exact same point, like financially and in almost every way, because I spent all this time learning about business, but in the end, it's not what I want to do. So I'm just trying to get that point across, like figure out what you want to do and focus on that. If you want to start a business to have more free time and to just like chill, then businesses, yeah, any business, a general rule of thumb is like you have to spend 5 to 10 years on any business to like really get it going well and to be well off, or you can get to the point where you can sell it and just be like, all right, I'm going to live off of this $1,000,000 for the next 10 or 20 years, or where you can systematize it to a way where someone else is running it and you just check in, like 4 hour work week, Tim Ferriss stuff. You can get his book and get lots of ideas too. I'm not going to recommend it just because I read it, and I think it's good for ideas, but to be honest, like reality is a lot different. And I'm gonna give you my point of view about it. That's another thing is like it's really easy to get caught up in like, thinking that it's possible to just work 4 hours a week and survive that way. To be honest, I was kind of doing it with an Amazon business because I was selling stuff on Amazon, and I was actually making about $1,200 a month in profit doing that. But it did take me about 3 years to get to that point. And then that's another point that we'll go into. If you don't control your business, someone can just take it away from you in a second. And that's what Amazon did. I had a shady competitor complain about one of the products I was selling, which was a friend's product. And, I held my ground and I'm like, no, I'm not removing this product. Like, this is my friend's product. There's no copyright issues, no intellectual property issues. I stood my ground. But the thing I didn't know was that guy was a patent troll. He was actually a lawyer. He knew what he was doing. That was like his whole business, is kind of stealing people's products. And I was just collateral damage. I was in the way. He had to get rid of me to be able to sell that product, to get exclusivity for it from for a corporation. It's a long story, but basically the gist of the story is that, my business was in Amazon's hands. All Amazon had to do was like some algorithm said I violated their terms of service. Sorry, you're suspended until you prove otherwise. And then it was just a nightmare proving otherwise. I didn't prove it in time. Ton of time went into it, and long story short, they destroyed all my inventory. I lost literally everything. I lost $150,000 worth of inventory. And I had to start over from zero. So all the money I saved up as an engineer, a bunch of years of work and time and effort, all it just went down the drain in like just one day. So yeah, long story short is figure out what you want to do with your life and just start trying to do it, because there's no shortcuts. And starting a business, I wanted to start a business to have more time and, to have the resources to do it. At the end of the day, I could have just, done it, worked part-time teaching English in a foreign country, or found some kind of part-time job and just made it happen, or even just, minimize your expenses, be poor, like move to a foreign country, whatever. All right, moving on. Another question was foreigners owning businesses abroad in other countries. I guess this boils down to simplicity, or actually boils down to America is actually a pretty good place to run a business, and we get taxed, but it's a lot worse than a lot of countries. I have family in Europe, within the European Union, and running a business there is a lot more complicated. There's like so much more red tape. It's and taxes are way more. I think Estonia is a country where it's easier and taxes are less. I don't know too much about it, but it's something you can look into if you're in Europe or you want to run a business in Europe. But I know like in certain countries in Europe, it's just it's really difficult. Depends on the country really, but I know in Mexico also it's a real headache to run a business. It's at least it's more complicated. In America, it's a lot easier. America is a corporation basically. It's run like a corporation. It's made for business pretty much since the beginning, since its inception. So everything here works well. It runs smoothly. There's not that much corruption, at least, on a day-to-day level, on our level as just like regular people. Yeah. So take that into consideration, definitely. This my friend was asking me about Philippines in specific. I guess it depends on the place, on the industry. Going back to asking people, you can just find people that run businesses. In this case, in the Philippines, find people that run a business there, and then buy them coffee or lunch, or have like a Skype call with them. It's a lot easier to ask people for like a quick 5-minute conversation. So just ask for that at first. Like, hey, can I ask you some questions? Just like your opinion on something for 5 minutes. And you can do that first. Ask them how it is. They'll know. And obviously there's like forums and stuff as well. Reddit. Just type anything into Google and just put forum at the end. And you'll find out. Sorry about the background noise. Usually you have to physically be there for it to work. This person in specific was asking about a cafe. Yeah, I mean, physical businesses, like, you have to be there. We had one of my family friends growing up, they owned a bakery, and they hired someone to run it, like a manager, and they just got robbed blind. Like, the manager would just, it was a teenager, because it was like, I think it was like a donut shop or an ice cream shop. I think it was an ice cream shop. And, the manager was some high school kid, because hiring the right people is really hard. It's important, it's super important, but it's hard. It's hard to find the right people. So, because you have to pay them well. And how much is an ice cream shop making, I'm guessing they couldn't afford a really like legit responsible person, so they had to hire what they could hire, which was a high schooler or like someone in college, and they would just invite over all their friends. Those people would get free ice cream all the time. The business wasn't making any money. Basically just problems. Unless with those kind of businesses, you have to be there most of the time. You have to physically be there overseeing it. One of my friends owns a coffee shop in Guadalajara in Mexico. It's a really successful coffee shop, and he runs it with like 2 or 3 other people, but he has to be there. Like, it's a job. Pretty much any business you do, like, I'm going to keep reiterating this, it's a job. That's why, and this video is going to look into the scope of like, making money somehow that isn't a 9 to 5. Like, I should have clarified that before. This video was like freedom from the system. That's the whole point of like Savwire, this YouTube channel. So if you're interested in that, then subscribe for sure. But it's not, I don't want to talk necessarily about starting a business, because you could be a composer, and like, you want to leave your job so you can make music. You can be a composer. You can be a singer-songwriter. You want to leave your job because you want to be an athlete. You can leave your job because you want to, be a contractor, or like you want to teach English, or you want to do whatever, It doesn't have to be like a certain type of business, but what I want to get across is like, whatever you end up doing, like, make sure you like it, you're interested in it, make sure it helps you grow in a certain way, because whatever you end up doing, like, most likely you're going to end up doing it, spending most of your time on it, if not, I don't want to say all your time, but like a majority of your time. Like, it's going to become your life. So, do something what you really, really like doing. People talk about like, oh yeah, follow your passions. And at this point, like, I don't like using those words, because it's kind of become like a meme. It's kind of become like, people get kind of, there's like a sarcasm kind of behind it, or just people get turned off when they hear that. But So I'm not going to use those terms, but yeah, like, I mean, it is kind of true. Like, you have to kind of like what you do, because I was working as an engineer, and in college I loved it. In university it was super interesting, but the actual act of being an engineer, going to work and sitting in a cubicle for 8-9 hours and just being on Excel spreadsheets all day, or just being in meetings that you don't need to be there for, like feeling like you're in kindergarten, your boss watching over you, asking why aren't you in your cubicle enough, getting treated like a little kid, like literally like kindergarten. Like if I would have known that's what my life would have looked like, I would have never studied engineering. Or maybe I would have, but after college I would have not wasted a couple of years trying to figure that out, that's what my life was going to be like as an engineer. So yeah, going back to this, yeah, physical business, you have to be there. The more moving parts, the more headache. Keep it simple. KISS. For moving abroad or doing anything abroad, a good reference is Nomad Capitalist on YouTube. They have some good videos. He has some good videos. I've never bought any of his products. I don't know how useful they are, to be honest. Like, you could probably just go to wherever you want to go and ask around and figure out the same stuff that he tells you to do. Like, once again, I don't know. I've never bought his product. They might be amazing, but it's a good starting point, like, to get an idea. And yeah, so just want to put that out as a reference. So question 3, where do I start? Like, for anyone that's interested in starting a business, where do I start? Going back to, like, figure out, what we wrote down before helps. Another thing is, like, figure out what you want your legacy to be, the rest of your life to look like. Because like I said, you're going to be doing it most likely all of the time before you learn how to systemize something, how to systematize it so you can sell it. Your life, most people, rule of thumb, 5 to 10 years until you can sell it, walk away, whatever, until you make it work, if it works. Because they say that, 95% of businesses fail or something after 10 years? Like, most maybe not for you listening, if these points get across, maybe your first businesses won't fail, but most people, their first businesses fail. Experience, and that isn't a bad thing, because experience is your best teacher. But one of my goals with this channel is to, like, I want people to fulfill their potential in life. Like, the world needs more of that. School, we're trained to become good worker bees, and that's not what life is about. That suffering and what our world is like today, it sucks, because rich people created the school system so you learn how to be a good worker bee, but no one ever teaches you how to create the life that you want, how to fulfill your true potential, because it's not profitable for, like, the top people that run the country, that run the world, that run the businesses, that run the corporations. Once again, different subject, but kind of don't want to go off tangents, but yeah, that's something to consider. So figure out what you want your legacy to be like, when you're 60, 70, 80, when you're on your deathbed, like, and you look back, for me, I thought about that, like, is that what I want my legacy to be like? I started an Amazon business, and I drop shipped, like, these certain products, these certain trinkets, gardening tools, whatever. Like, no, man, I'd be kind of ashamed or, like, disappointed in myself. And that goes back, it depends for everyone. It depends on what your goals are. For me personally, like, since I was a kid, I've had a certain dream, and when I was 14, I kind of like 13, 14, I kind of, like, stomped it, because I was just super scared of it, and I just didn't think it'd be possible at all. I'm like, man, this is not, like, my thing. But figure out what you want your legacy to be, because it's important. So point A, what excites you, because if it's boring, you'll hate it. You'll hate your life, and you're just, the world has enough of that, to be honest. And, you'll just probably be creating a crappy product, most likely. Maybe not, but this part, the hating your life part, and it's boring, that's enough of a reason not to do it. So think about, what can you add most to the world? What are your strengths and weaknesses? That's a whole different subject. And there's I'm pretty sure there's books on it. There's like a certain book I kind of remember about on it. But basically, you just think about what you were good at as a kid. Just write it down. What things do you like to do that you're good at? Usually they go hand in hand. For me personally, I like talking to people. I like going out and exploring. You could take one of those personality tests, the ETNJ, whatever. Um, the personality test where they tell you 4 letters. I'll put it in the references at the bottom. I'm going to write it here so I don't forget. When you take that test, and there'll be links in the description for all of this stuff. So just check the description for link. You can take one of those tests, and that's one way for you to know how to know what your strengths and weaknesses are. If you can't just like write it down. There's a bunch of personality stuff I can talk about. Like I said, anything you guys are interested, just ask in the comments and I'll make a video about it. But yeah, what can you add most of the world? Think about it. Because in general, if you can help someone do something, like that's how the world worked before. I help you, you help me. Like, hey, I love raising chickens. I have like 100 chickens and I make all these eggs. Like, I love my chickens. That's what I do. That's my thing. I'm the chicken man. Like, I'll trade these dozen eggs. Like, you fix my car, or I'll give you like free eggs for a month if you fix my car. But that's how the world worked in the past. Like, they probably didn't have cars before, but you know what I mean, right? Anyways, one thing to think about, what can you add most of the world? So like going back to me, like I like exploring, I like talking to people, so I like learning, like I love learning. And so finally I'm trying to put this to work. So I'm trying to synthesize everything I learned over 10 years into this YouTube channel. And if you're good at something and you help other people, you should get paid for it, and you will get paid for it if you just set it up right. So point C, we are all creators. That is your highest form of your human potential, is creating something. And that's how we feel fulfillment. That's how we feel good as human beings. So that's how you express yourself and reach your potential. So think about that. Choosing the hard road, destiny growth. Usually what scares you the most is like what you should be doing. And on the other end, when you come through and you execute, when you overcome that fear and fulfill whatever you're trying to do, like it's the most rewarding. That's how you grow as a person. It's just like win. Like, you're making the world a better place. You're growing as a person. You're making money at it. You're probably good at it, because usually, what you're scared of the most is like what you should be doing, which that's more of like a metaphysical deep subject for another video. But yeah, it kind of just boils down to that. Point D, work backwards from your goal to now. So it depends on what your goal is. Like, if you want to run like a tour business, I want to be doing tours for 3 hours a day and then surviving off of that and then chilling the rest of the day. So, I mean, if your goal was like, I want to be a tour guide for my city. I love talking to people, and I want to work 3 hours a day, only 10 a.m. till 1 p.m. And then I want to chill the rest of the day, and I want to make $1 million a year in profit doing that. Then, work backwards. I mean, if you have $1 million a year profit, then calculate that, divide it by 12, you get your monthly profit, and then your daily profit. Figure out, okay, what do I have to do every day to make, whatever that would be, to make $2,000, $10,000 a day in profit, whatever. You should always start out with just like making $1, but yeah. Figure out what you really want, how much you need to survive, figure out your goal, write it down, and just work backwards. Like, you have to have a plan from A to Z, Point E, write out your ideas. Keep them in Evernote. I love Evernote. I've been using it since, since like 2010 or something, 2012. And I never lose an idea. It's awesome the way it works. So, and it saves me so much time at this point. So just use Evernote to keep these ideas. Use your phone notes, write them out. Use notebooks physically. F, choose an idea that scares you the most. Blah, blah, blah. I already talked about that. Point 2, always start a business with $0. This is an important point I learned the hard way. Because what happened to me is like I had all this money saved up as an engineer. I had like $100,000. Actually, when I left, I think I had like 60,000 or something. And in the beginning, I was just like, oh, whatever. Like, I have 60 grand in the bank, $1,000 here, $1,000 there, like this $300 course, this and that. And then buying inventory. Oh, no problem. 2,000. I'm going to sell this and make $3,000 back. But then the thing is there's so many ways like to lose money, and then, you have to calculate it out right. I was just overlooking like, hey, Amazon is charging me this per month. Amazon is taking this much commission, stuff that I didn't pay attention to in the beginning. Basically, it's really easy to bleed money, and people do this all the time. Like, they think that throwing money at it will help them get it started faster, but you're going to learn the same amount of stuff like starting from zero. You're going to learn the exact same like pain points, and you're going to learn them faster. You're going to get there faster if you start with zero, because you're going to when you're starting with investing with $0, you have to figure out what works like right away. You don't get caught up in like, oh, paying for this software as a service to keep track of my taxes, to make my life easier down the line. It just makes it simpler. So all the best businesses, they always started with like a really small investment. Most of them, like almost all of them. Anytime you hear a story, it's like this person out of their garage, they started selling this trinket, and then they started selling this trinket, and then they, they started selling 5 of them a day and 10, and somehow they found out, oh, this sells better, let me do this. So don't take out a loan. Like, loans in general, like, it's a way to trap yourself. So you owe money to a bank, and you have to figure out how to pay them. Don't invest your life savings. If you can't make money right now, throwing money at it won't help, and it just makes things more complicated. Remember to keep things simple. Validating the market, like how to figure out if it'll actually work. So there's 2 things to understand here. You've probably heard of minimum viable product, when people make like, they want to sell a drone, for example. So they make like a mock-up, like they make the simplest drone they can, or they make basically what they want to make, but the simplest version of it. A drone is probably like a really complicated example, but minimum viable segment is something that you probably haven't thought about. That's important. So sticking with the coffee shop idea, making a high-end coffee shop in a foreign country. So minimum viable segment would be like, what group of people would be most excited about that coffee shop? What group of people needs that high-end coffee shop, that would visit it, spend their money there, be like raging fans that would love your business. So for a high-end coffee shop overseas, I mean, the first thing you would think about is people that spend money there, so digital nomads. This is just brainstorming, but digital nomads, figure out if they live in that city. That would be a good example. Look at other high-end coffee shops in that city and figure out what they're doing, figure out their clientele, figure out what you would do differently. For physical business, it would just mean like you're in a different part of the city. That would be fine. You could do something similar, but just physically be somewhere different. But minimum viable segment is like, that's something that people don't talk about too much, but it's really important, because you have to find that group of people that's going to really want your product. Because if you don't know who that is, you're going to spend a lot on marketing. You're going to spend a lot of time trying to like market to everyone. And there's usually a certain group of people that's going to really respond to your product or business. And you want to figure out who those are to save time and money and to just start the business, make your first dollar. Minimum viable product in terms of a coffee shop, the cheapest way to start one up, you want to figure out if it works or not. So you want to get it up and running as fast as possible. Like I was saying before, minimal investment. Obviously with a coffee shop, like you could start it with $0. You could start, like if you already have the equipment because you like doing it yourself, you could start roasting the beans yourself at your house, and selling them, like just go door to door and try to sell it, or hand out flyers or something, or put up flyers like freshly roasted coffee from your neighborhood, or that could be an example of a minimum viable product. Or I knew a guy here in San Diego that would I would go to Bird Rock Coffee, and he used to work there as a barista, and he told me that he had like a bike cart. He wanted to start his own coffee shop, but he started by having a bike cart, and he would go down to like the Midway area, around like Coronado or Point Loma, somewhere around there. And all the bikers in the morning, like at 6, 7, 8 a.m., he would park where they would all congregate, and he would sell them coffees. Coffee has a huge profit margin, because a cup of coffee costs you like 10 cents or 25 cents or something, and you sell it for like $4, $5. So he was making his money that way on the side, and he was figuring out if he really wants to start a coffee shop. He was figuring everything out about a business, making a name for himself. With that minimum viable product, he invested like $1,000 or $2,000 into a small espresso machine and a custom bicycle, and that was his business. $2,000 or whatever it was. I'm sure it wasn't that much. And I don't know what he's doing now, but I'm pretty sure he either figured out that that's what he wants to do or not, and maybe he owns a coffee shop somewhere. Point 5, bureaucracy of where you want to base it. So going back to boots on the ground, point 1, nothing will beat being there and asking around. Don't assume. Like, assuming is always bad. It's actually a really good book in general to read about life that is really simple and powerful. I don't really like self-help books because I think it's just a form of procrastination. But a really good one that I recommend is the 4 Agreements. And it talks about, one of the points is don't assume. Because, like our brains, like assuming stuff, it just causes so much problems, assume. Don't make an ass out of you and me. That's like if you break up assume into 3 words, that's kind of what it means, or what it could boil down to. The 4 Agreements. So yeah, just be there, figure out what works. Ask around, ask on forums, ask on Reddit. I've saved so much time just like ask on forums on Reddit, keep track of the threads you made, and just go back and like see what people said. Ask the same question on like a bunch of forums, and then just go back like a couple days later and see what people said. Talk to them. Once again, Nomad Capitalist, good reference, good resource. And like I said, USA is a good place for business. So just worry about the most important thing, what you want to do, and making your first dollar. Like, just think about that. Like, that's the most important part. And you're going to have to do that either way. If you invest $100,000 into your business, you're going to have to make your first dollar somehow. Like, you're going to have to do that. So just think about that for now. Just save yourself all the time. Think about what you want to do and how to make your first dollar. Once you're making a crap ton of money and being destroyed by taxes, paying a lot for taxes, then worrying about like moving to different states, setting up LLCs and all that stuff, like don't worry about that. It's just noise, because in the end you might not even have to do that. And yeah, you might like go through all of the process of like setting up a C corporation and then S corporation, figuring out, oh, Wyoming is the best state for me for taxes and all this stuff, and then in the end you're like, oh wait, no, this business isn't going to work, and I should just start another one in a different country, and all that time and effort is just going to go wasted. So cut out the noise and just start, just execute. Execution is 90% of a business. 10% is planning. Startup and upkeep costs. So it's different for every industry. Like I said, for a coffee shop, I'm sure you could Google it, just how much it costs to run a coffee shop in any country. Yeah, make a spreadsheet, figure out your costs, like how much in that country, how much people, what's the minimum wage, or how much do you want to pay per hour? What are your costs going to be? But just to save time, like honestly, going back to coffee and lunch, just ask that to someone who already owns a coffee shop, like in the Philippines, for example, or just Google forum, ask around online, go on the Philippines subreddit and ask there. Go on coffee forums, ask there, Philippine forums, expat forums. The startup and upkeep costs are usually a lot higher than you think. That's why simplicity is key. Costs always come out of nowhere. And there's always stuff that breaks, like always. There's always, whatever can go wrong, will go wrong, Murphy's Law. So start with your minimum viable segment product. Just worry about getting to point B, like making that first dollar. Point A is your plan. Point B is making the first dollar with the plan. Then worry about like point C, making $10 with the make $10 a day profit, 100, whatever. Keep point Z in mind, but like don't worry about it too much. Just keep it as like your compass, your North Star, something to work towards. Stay focused. How to execute it? Keep going back to the same thing. Most important considerations for a business. For a coffee shop, this is for an online business, but for coffee shops, like the most important considerations off the top of my head, like where are you going to get the coffee beans? How much do they cost? How much do you want to sell it for? What's your competition? Figure out your competition. What are they doing? Are they doing really well? Are they struggling? Or if there's no other high-end coffee shops in your area where you want to start a coffee shop, like are there a lot of businessmen there, that need coffee? Are there businesses where people make a lot of money? Are there tech startups nearby? Like who drinks high-end coffee? Figure that out, and figure out if those people are in that neighborhood that you want to start it, or that'll help you figure out which neighborhood you do want to start it in. Figure out who your customers are. That's the most important thing, actually. I should have put that in here. Like, figure out who your customers are and what they want. Most important thing. Your business has to solve some kind of problem. Most important thing, right? So, but in terms of online business, which was kind of what I was doing for most of pretty much all my business ventures. So the most important considerations, a mailing list, like collect emails, because that way you're independent of, if you do a Patreon and you want to contact all your patrons, you have to go through Patreon. You don't have their emails. Same thing with Amazon. If you want to contact someone, you have to go through Amazon system, through eBay. All these middlemen's, Airbnb. If they decide to cut you off, if you have like 1,000 subscribers, YouTube as well. If you have 1,000 subscribers and like YouTube shuts you down or Patreon shuts you down because you said something controversial, or in 10 years maybe everything's going to be controversial and you can't even say a joke, so you'll get in trouble for that and they'll shut you down. So to prevent that, collect email somehow. In the description box of this video, you'll see that there's a subscription link for email. If you want to get on my mailing list and learn more about business, feel free to sign up. And that's one example. So from the very beginning, I'm trying to collect emails because that's so important. If YouTube shuts me down one day, I can still contact you guys. or in any business, you'll still be able to contact them. And even for a coffee shop, like, you have you want people to keep coming back. Like, let's say you roast a new type of coffee. Like, hey, you send out an email, come visit us. We have a new type of coffee. Or you want to run a sale, oh, this Friday, buy one, get one free lattes. Bring your friend. Or we have an open mic night, whatever. Advertising is important. You have to figure out how to reach your customers, whether it be Instagram, this or that. But mailing list is the best because no one can take that away from you. And then you can do a lot of stuff with emails. Like, you can plug it into Facebook and make custom audiences. Like, if you have 100 emails, or better yet, 1,000, you plug that into Facebook, and it kind of tells you the demographics of your audience, So with online products, people that bought your $100 product, if there's 1,000 of them, you plug that into Facebook, it'll tell you, oh yeah, all these people have in common that their age, or like most 80% of them are 30 to 40 years old, male. They live in the eastern coast of the United States, and their favorite car is Toyota Tundra, and they work as like engineers, stuff like that. Maybe not the best example, but more or less something like that. So you can tailor your brand to people that like Toyota Tundras. You can make like a SUV coffee, or like put it as the logo or something. You know what I mean? Like to draw those people's attention. You can get really detailed with it. But yeah, so mailing list is important. PayPal button if you're doing an online business. I have a friend who he sells. I don't want to like ruin his business and like put his idea out there, but I'm trying to think of an example. Basically, he sells like a service. He does like presets for a certain product, like electronic product, where you can go in and, instead of you messing around with that product, you can just plug in this preset that he made. So he sells it for like $30 a pop. He does it for himself for fun, and he just makes a YouTube video about it. And then he's like, oh, if you want to have the same end product as me with this toy, like, I can sell you my presets for $30. So he has a PayPal button. When someone clicks and pays it, PayPal automatically emails that person like the zip file with the product, with the preset. And so that's simple. Like, he makes a good amount of money doing that. Not like enough to live off of, but enough he makes a good amount of money. Let's just say that. Like, it's something significant. And make sure you have a high profit margin. You want to be greedy because you need high profits to survive. I used to think businesses are greedy when they had like a 50% profit margin or something. I'm like, man, what if they just made it 30 and then like donated the rest or something? But you never know when a competitor is going to come along and like that profit margin is going to go to like almost zero for a while, or someone sues you and you have to have like a lot of money saved up to survive. So there's always going to be stuff that comes up. You need high profit margins. The higher profit margin you have, the more comfortable you'll be, the more breathing room you'll have. So it just makes your life easier. Like, a lot of these businesses that I see that do really well for themselves, and where the owner's like doesn't look super tired and just miserable, and he actually has free time. Those are the ones where they're selling like $1,000 item or $500 item. They have high profit margins. So on each sale, they're making $300 or whatever. And they do well. I mean, I know these doctors that are really good at what they do, natural healthcare practitioners. They provide the results. They're really good at what they do. And they charge a lot. They charge like $150 an hour or something, $200 an hour. And, their profit margin is 100%. I mean, because it's just their time that they're trading for money, but they only have to work like, 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day. They could work like 2 days a week if they want to, because they make enough, They're not charging $30 an hour. They're charging $200 an hour. So just make things easier. Just make things easy on yourself. It always goes back. It's the same amount of effort to sell a high price product than it is a low price product. Every business has that in common. Like, you need somewhere to sell it. You need to figure out who your clients are. You need to advertise it somehow. So keep that into consideration. How to execute. Make it as easy as you can for you and your customers. PayPal button. You want to buy this? Just click the button. Here, you have it. Boom. $30 for me and a good product for you. Keep it simple. Bare bones. Non-sexy businesses are actually a lot of times the best, like stuff that people don't think about. This weekend we were talking about Lamps Plus. Like, the owner of that makes so much money and they sell lamps. Like, that's not sexy unless you love lamps. Unless you're that guy in the Anchorman. Those are the best businesses. Like medical supply company. Whatever. I remember for a little bit, a product I was going to sell was like toilet seat covers, because I saw that there was a big demand for them. That was before I realized like I need to sell higher price product, but that's an example. Like, that's not a sexy product, but every business needs toilet seat covers. And there's a lot of businesses like that where you can become a local distributor of something. And let's say you love lamps. You love lamp. Like, you can be a lamp distributor. You can buy a franchise of Lamps Plus and set it up in your city if there isn't one. And in that case, it becomes a job because you have to be there. But, you could always hire a manager if you can find a good one. But yeah, those are just some examples. Non-sexy, always good business. It's simple. It's hard to do. Like, it's hard to figure out what it is, but it can be simple. And yeah, 90% execution, 10% planning. Everyone has a million ideas. That's why you also shouldn't be secretive about your idea, because it's so much work to do it, and everyone's different. Like, maybe you love coffee a lot, and you know a lot about the Philippines, and you know the market, and et cetera, and like a plantation in the Philippines. That's you're specific. Your next door neighbor, or like your friends at school, or whoever, like, they're going to be a lot different. They're going to have different interests, different experiences, different connections. So usually it's going to be really rare to find someone that's kind of just like you that would be able to execute as well as you could on your business. So don't be afraid about sharing your ideas, because ideas don't really get stolen that often, unless in general, they just don't get stolen that often. Not something to worry about. That's one thing I came to realize as well. It's better just to talk about it and get feedback on it, to be honest. No business is easy. Those don't exist. Like I said, it will be your life for the next 5 to 10 years. Just do what you've always really wanted to do. Just do that. It's going to be the same amount of work to create a business you hate than to create one that you love. Just that with the first one, you're going to be miserable. With the second one, you're going to be excited and grow as a person. So examples, we're talking about this one. Let's go through some examples. So physical product, e-commerce. We can look at Kickstarter for some examples. You could just make this, I'm sure this person, hot swappable, connect up to, I'm pretty sure they just found a keyboard that they really liked and they made it better. They found a keyboard manufacturer in China. They talked to them. They figured out how to make it better, how much it would cost, and this is their Kickstarter. And they're good at advertising. They figured out their target market. They figured out what people really need, and they just made it, and they executed it well. If this is what you want to do, let me know, and I can refer you to a really good course for it. That does cost a lot of money, or I could tell you more about it, whichever. But yeah, the way these work, physical products work, is you make I mean, what should I tell you guys about physical products? I mean, yeah, what these guys are gonna do, they're gonna sell this on a Kickstarter. They probably haven't. It's a zero upfront cost. Okay, I'm gonna talk about zero upfront cost. So this is zero upfront cost for them, besides labor and maybe like a $500 investment to put together a video and whatever. Sometimes you do have to invest a little bit, like $500 or $1,000. But what I meant was like, don't invest your whole life savings into something without knowing if it's gonna work or not. So what these guys are gonna do, they invested, let's say, $1,000 into making a video, making a prototype, putting everything together, making a landing page, running Facebook ads to this project, and they invested $1,000, let's say, 2,000, whatever, and they got almost $500,000 pledged. So they're gonna take that $500,000. Let's say that their profit margin on this, ideally, it's gonna be 30% or more. Let's see how much they're gonna sell it for. Okay, so it looks like $74. So not exactly $100, but pretty good. So $70, just as long as it's not like a $20 product. $74, maybe that's good enough. So let's say their profit margin is like on a $74 product. Let's say it's really good. Let's say they make $50 on a sale. Let's say they make $40 profit on a sale. So if it's a $500,000, and let's say they make like 30% profit margin. I'm kind of tired and I suck at math, so I'm gonna pull out a calculator. So let's say $500,000 times 0.3. So let's say their profit from that is going to be $150,000. So from a $2,000 investment and let's say 6 months, let's say 3 months, 2 months of work, 3 months of work, they made $150,000. So that's a yearly salary for like a engineer, for like a senior level engineer. So they can survive off of that. If it's just one person, they can have enough to make this product, ship it out, etc. And they made $150,000, and they started a business. Because then once they did this, they'll have a landing page. They'll have customers. They'll know more about their customers, how to find them. They'll be running Facebook ads, or going to like Comic-Con or like some kind of trade shows for gamers, and showing their product and getting customers there. And that'll be their job. Like, their job will be to run Facebook ads for, check up on it an hour a day, make sure their fulfillment warehouse is shipping them out, make sure everything's good, talk to their customer service people they hired. And ideally, theoretically, you could spend an hour a day running a business like this if you really set it up right. So that's an example of a good, or just a example of a physical product or e-commerce. You could be an affiliate. You could write a blog about like your favorite books. You could do your own Oprah book club. Like, let's say you like scary stories. Just write a book club of like your favorite horror books, scary books, and then just put affiliate links. So like when someone clicks on that link to buy it on Amazon, you get like 5% and 10% of the sale. And you could do that for anything. So if you love like juicers, I want to buy a juicer soon. So like I'm like researching a lot about them. But let's say you love juicers, you could just make YouTube videos about your favorite juicers or about juicers on the market, and then in the description put an affiliate link. So whenever someone goes to Amazon and buys that juicer, you'll make 5% or 10% off the sale, whatever it is these days. I don't know. But like I said, it is kind of dangerous to be putting your business in someone else's hands like Amazon. So ideally, the affiliate links would be for other small businesses that you trust. They're not shady, and they're going to just cutthroat, screw you over, and cut you out of the deals, which that's kind of Amazon's business model. Keep that in mind. You could always, for example, here I'm going to have links to Amazon like ideally I want to cut off Amazon too, but just for the sake of starting up this YouTube channel, like the books I recommend at the bottom, they're affiliate links. So if you use those to buy a product, you support this channel. So I would be grateful. And at the same time, I would make like 5% off of that $10 book. So I'd make 50 cents or whatever, or 30 cents, whatever it is. So you could use it as a tool to like help you offset costs. So the point of this channel maybe is to sell my own courses. It's not to be an affiliate, but the affiliate links will help to make a little bit of money on the side, it'll, why not? If I'm going to refer you to that book anyways, why not make 50 cents off of every sale? You know what I mean? Like, it adds up. You could be a contractor. These days here in Southern California, like if you're a plumber, if you're an electrician, you're making pretty good money because people these days, they don't want to do the dirty work. People don't have time. People just don't want to do it. People don't know how to do it. People these days, like kids don't learn how to fix stuff. Like they don't grow up learning that. It's kind of becoming a lost art. So if you know how to fix stuff, like if you can be a handyman in Southern California, you'll make pretty good money. And you could always, if you minimize your expenses, which in Southern California is pretty hard, but if you could somehow live off of like whatever, $5,000 a month, $3,000 a month, if each call you make is like $200, then you could do the math. Like, let's just do the math right now. Let's say you need $3,000. Let's say your goal is the most free time possible. So you can work on your dreams, like work on your, writing your novel. You want to become a novelist. Obviously, you're not going to make money right away doing that. I mean, if you could, I'm sure there's ways you could. I just can't think of them right now. But okay, let's say you're a really good handyman, but you want to make $3,000 a month to survive, and you want free time to write novels. So let's say for each house call, it's $100. Going back to the $100 example. So for $100 profit, you need to work 30 hours a month to make $3,000 a month profit. So 30, let's make it $5,000 because without 3,000 in Southern California, that's like nothing. $5,000 a month, $100 profit for each sales call or whatever, each house call. That's 50 hours. 50 hours divided by 4 weeks. That means you would be working 12 and a half hours a week instead of 40 hours a week. So you could just work like 2 days, or you could just do like a house call a day for 2 hours, or 3 hours a day, and then spend the rest of the day writing your novel or going to the beach or whatever you'd want to do, or raising your kids. So contractors make good money. You do have to be there usually, unless you're like doing something online. Contractor could be teaching English. That's one thing I think about doing sometimes, because I actually like teaching. Like I hated going to school all my life except for university, which was awesome, but I always hated being at school. But I actually like teaching a lot. Like it's fun talking to people, interacting with them. With English, you do conversational classes a lot, so it's just hearing people's life stories and hearing interesting stories. I worked in Spain, and Spanish people are really fun, and I love that job. Like honestly, like I would do it again. I worked like 12, 13 hours a week. That was all I had to work to survive in Spain. Obviously, like I had to spend a couple hours a week extra to prepare the lesson plans, but after a while, like you don't have, you can do that in minimal amount of time. So you could always do it remotely. Maybe you're good at programming. You can contract that out. Consulting, pretty much is similar to contracting. Like if you're an expert at something, for example, I could be a consultant about, I was going to say teaching English overseas, but I don't think anyone would need a consultant for that. Let's say I could be your consultant for starting up a business if you want to start an Amazon business. I've done that before, so I could consult for that. I could charge you, $100 for an hour of consulting. I could totally do that. I just have to set up like a website, a landing page, all that stuff. And then government contracts. You can make good money doing that. Any business you have, you can search for government contracts. If you're a lamp supplier, there's plenty of government offices that need lamps. So you could figure out how to find those contracts. You could put bids on them, and then if they choose you, government contracts, they give you preference if you're a minority or if you're a woman-owned business, minority-owned business, small business. If you're like less than 100 employees or whatnot. If you're a veteran, a disabled veteran, there's like a ton of considerations they have. So if you're one of those things or like multiple things, you're more likely to win government contracts. And usually government contracts you make a lot of money. You can make good money doing those. There's people that only do government contracts. So that's another thing you could potentially look into. And there's more examples. There's people that make money writing songs for other people. There's people that just sit at home and write songs and they sell them to, to Bad Bunny or Shakira or whoever. There's people that make music for music and television, and they make money from sync. You can make money just sewing clothes and selling clothes at farmers markets, like high-end scarves for wives, or scarves for their dogs. You can make money anyway. So that's, how long was this video? That was an hour and 16 minutes of me rambling on about my life experiences with business, and hopefully you learned something. These are some references. I'm going to put these in the description. So Evernote. Oh yeah. If you don't use it, Brave browsers, it's kind of cool because you can start earning money now just from browsing the internet. And yeah, you want to try to monetize like whatever you can in the beginning and figure out what your best stream of income is. Obviously you have to start with like that first $1. But Brave browser is cool because like just from browsing you'll make 10 cents, 20 cents a day. If you're on your computer the whole day, you'll make $1. Like if you're on browsing a lot. So it's just a good feeling too. Like metaphysically, what's that saying? There's like a Bible saying, those who have will be given more, and those who have not, they'll have it taken away from them. Which, like when you think about it, it's kind of unfair, but that's kind of how the world works, unfortunately. Just metaphysically, you don't have to look at it from that point of view exactly, from that quote, but like if you think about it, people that have a lot of money, like it's easier for them to make more money. So if you have $1 coming in, like if you have 10 cents coming in a day already, it's kind of like, oh, it's a good feeling, even if it's just 10 cents, it's like I'm making money somehow. So that's a quick way to start having money come in and just seeing that like, oh, 10 cents, sweet, having that feeling and then growing it in another way. Like, oh, with Brave, I'm making 5-10 cents a day, but this other way, oh, I'm making my first $1 a day. And then, with my affiliate links, I'm making a YouTube channel on like I said, on juicers. Like I want to set up a website where I distribute juicers or I sell on juicers online. But through my YouTube videos about juicers, I'm already making like $1 a day. Sweet. You know what I mean? So that's one way to start that. Brave browser, I recommend. That test, I'm going to put a link for it, the Form Agreements, that book. If I could recommend one book, I don't want to recommend too much because like I fell into this trap for many years of just reading self-help books and reading business books, and you don't want to do that. Like, to be honest, if you have an idea already, just try to execute it somehow, or ask a question in the comments, like what your next step would be. You could tell your idea, or you could email me. I'll put my I'll just put my email in here. References. You can just email me at savwire@gmail.com. Yeah, just you can, if you don't want to make your idea public in the comments, you can just put it there, or put it in the comments, whatever. Or if you don't want to share it, then, you can be secretive about it. I'm not going to sign any NDAs or anything, because that's just a headache that can be a real headache for me. In general, that's why I also say go get coffee with people and meet people. Business, in general, if you're a good person and you help people, you'll do good. There's always going to be people that are going to try to screw you over. But in general, don't worry about it. I'm not going to try to steal anyone's idea. I already have my set ideas. And yeah. But I'm just going to put it there in case you do want to share it, or better yet, just share in the comments so other people can learn from your idea too, or see it as an example and then see my response. And if you really want to read a book about starting a business, the best one I've read and that I recommend is The E-Myth Revisited. It actually talks about starting a bakery, which would be really similar to starting a coffee shop. And the principles applied in that book, even though it's about a bakery, it applies to any business, really. It could apply to starting up a software as a service business. It could apply to starting up a music academy. It's like a pet grooming business, anything. It's about systemization, pretty much. So if you want to learn about systemization, a really good intro is that book, The E-Myth Revisited. It's just interesting in general. I really like that book, and I recommend it to everyone. These ones, just read this one and try to, if you're going to read one, just read it and then act upon it. Because your brain can only fit so much information anyways. I'm the type of person who I wanted to learn everything and then take action, and that was totally the wrong approach. I wasted many years doing that. But if there's some of these other books that fascinate you and you really want to read them, then yeah, they could be. You could always learn something. Another good book is The One Thing. You can actually just understand the idea. You don't need the whole book. I'll put a link for a video about it actually in the description, because you don't need to read the whole book. Honestly, you can just watch a YouTube video about it and understand. Basically, it's just about how if you want great results in your life, it's a lot better just to focus on one thing and become an expert at that. Because so many people are a jack of all trades, and if you're an expert at one thing, premium product, you always want to have a premium product. You don't want to be selling fighting for price, selling it as cheaply as possible. You want to be the go-to person for this one thing. For the coffee business, you'd want to be the highest end coffee. Maybe not the highest end, but you want to be the best coffee in that city in the Philippines. My two favorite coffee shops in San Diego, they're minimalistic. They don't even have anywhere to sit down inside. Well, one of them does, one of them doesn't. One of them doesn't have anywhere to sit inside. You just go there and they give you a paper cup with coffee, but the coffee's really good, and all they make is the 10 types of coffee, and the pastries they don't make themselves, they sell it. So all they do is roast and sell really good coffee. Really simple. And they're asked inside, they don't make it themed or anything. They just have a really simple, clean, small storefront, and they do great because people want good coffee. They don't care about the other stuff. And the owner of that coffee shop isn't distracted by other stuff, so he can focus on just make the best coffee he can. So that's a really powerful idea to understand, that I want you guys to understand. And some other books that are good, Getting Things Done is a good book for organization and keeping track of stuff. It's about using file folders and cabinets, which is kind of outdated, but the idea is really good. That one helped me a lot, actually, to be efficient and stay on track of stuff. Traction by Gino Wickman it's also about systemization. It's just more advanced. Like, this book tells you about the idea, and this book tells you how to apply it in real life, because in theory it sounds like really cool and powerful and easy, but to apply it in real life, it's in the beginning I was really struggling to figure out, okay, I understand how to do it, but how do I do it in real life? Like, I had no idea, and I really wanted to know. And that's a really good book on that subject. Side note, this book talks about, every really successful business has a really good manager and a really good like CEO idea person. Because a business needs both of those to run successfully. You need someone who really understands. Okay, visionary and manager. You have to have someone who's a visionary, someone who understands the business. He's like a visionary. He has a goal for the future for it. He knows what he wants. He understands the customer. It's not just someone with like lofty ideas. It's someone who understands the target market, minimum viable product, minimum viable segment, how to get from point A to B to C and then to point Z. Have a plan. Have organized and systematized the whole idea. How it runs. The bricklayer, the mason, the architect. Yeah, that's a great word. The architect. Every business needs that person, but what most people don't realize is the business also needs a really good manager, someone to run the business. It can be the same person. It can be one person who does both, but it's really hard to find that skill set in one person. Like, most people would either be good at one or the other, but it's really rare that you'll find someone who's like a good architect to plan things out and that's good at managing it. I really like planning stuff out. I'm fascinated by it. I love learning. I love, being the architect, setting it up, thinking it out. But when it comes to managing it, I hate it. I hate the day-to-day of it. Dealing with employees, with customers, with all that kind of stuff. It's not bad. I don't hate it. It's just it's too much work to do both, and yeah, it's not my strength, but there are some people that are really good at managing. They're really good managers. And they like the consistency. They like the security of that job. Some people like repetitiveness. They find security in it. One is not better than the other, because in a business they're equally as important. You need a manager for it to run. And you need someone to plan it out. You need an architect for it. Someone to, to be the architect. So keep that in mind too. And that book, Traction, talks about that as well. So thanks, guys, for listening to the video. Like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments. And yeah, like and subscribe. Okay, guys, thank you. Have a good day.